Tell you I've been there. A little earlier we spoke to someone who himself has dined with Donald Trump. In fact, he might even be considered one of the president's friends. Nigel Farage, Mr. Brexit.
So Nigel Farage, looking at Donald Trump and Emmanuel Macron in Paris, it's hard to think that Emmanuel Macron isn't the more statesmanly of the two, isn't it?
Donald Trump does things differently. You know, he is not a conventional politician or leader in any way. You only have to follow his Twitter account to know that. But what he is an agent for change, and he's trying to shake up the American establishment.
Yeah, but he's not the global leader. I mean, look at the world's opinion polls. They're all looking at Emmanuel Macron as the global leader.
Do you know something? I thought that the speech he gave in Riyadh was very bold and brave, saying directly there, drive out of your places of worship those that do evil. He was treated in Poland like a hero, with tens of thousands of cheering people in the streets. And you know what? He may not be the sort of cup of tea that the liberal media go for, but actually I think around the world he may be a bit more popular than people realise.
Gives him a break from what's going on in Washington at the moment. You've been tweeting your support for Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah.
Can you? I know you're friends, but can you at least see that he's been, in the words of the New York Post, which is a reasonably friendly newspaper, pretty stupid? Do
you know something? I've been in elected politics. I've fought national elections, European elections, even a referendum. And I'll tell you something, it's a very bloody, dirty, horrible game. And if someone says to me, I want to meet you for a cup of tea, I've got some information that will really damage the Remain camp or the leader of a party you're fighting, what do? You go and listen.
Yeah, but OK, let's bring it domestically. If a Russian had come to you and said, I have some dirt on Theresa May, wouldn't your antenna just go up a little bit and you think, hang on, this is an adversary, this is not someone that I should really be dealing with?
Well, and I think that's what Trump said. You know, when he appeared on Hannity, Fox News, he said, looking back on it, I'd have done things differently. If I was in that position, do you know what I'd have done? I'd have sent somebody else. And then you've got deniability. But
no, he didn't do that. He didn't send us a third staffer. He invited Paul Manafort and Jared Kushner.
No, and he said, I should have done things differently. But hey, what comes out of this is a lawyer that got into America, having been refused because the Obama administration, so maybe we should put some of the blame back on the Democrats here. Nothing came out of the meeting. This is a witch hunt. This is an attempt to link anyone around Trump to Russia. Goodness me, it's even been written in American newspapers that I'm under suspicion by the FBI for Russian contact. It's nonsense. And all of it is designed to stop Trump getting on with the job of putting his platform into place in America.
OK, let's get back to Paris for a second. You've had dinner with Donald Trump, probably not Blue Lobster, because that doesn't seem to be the president's favourite. Do you think that Emmanuel Macron can persuade Donald Trump, over the course of their Blue Lobster, that it would be a good idea for the United States to get back into the Paris Accord?
I think we all get far too excited about what Paris is. The whole Paris thing's voluntary anyway. It doesn't really add up to a row of beans. What Trump
Well, that's why he didn't need to pull out of it, right?
Well, he's pulled out of it symbolically because he said to American voters, we have got a rotten deal across the world in a whole host of things. I'm going to get a better deal. And when he pulled out, look at his language. What he basically said was, give us a bit of a break and we'll come back in and work together again. You know, the idea that Trump is wholly isolationist is complete and utter nonsense. But he does want America to get a better deal. Makes sense.
Joining us now for reaction just outside of the Washington, D.C. is he's at CPAC, Nigel Farage, Fox News contributor and former UK Independence Party leader. All right, Nigel, you're there at CPAC with all those activists. And the president talked about the judges today in his speech and how if we don't keep this momentum going, you know, we won't get judges on the courts and a lot of his agenda could be undone. What was your sense from the president's speech?
Well, of course, it's all about the midterms, isn't it, really? I mean, he's achieved amazing things. He said today that he kept more promises that he'd actually made during the election campaign, which was a great line. But he's doing his stuff. He got tax reform through just before Christmas. Very, very important. But he needs to make sure that he keeps majorities in both of those houses in the midterms. So how does he keep the Trump revolution rolling? Well, I'll tell you something. I shared a platform with him in Mississippi back in the presidential campaign. He went round the country speaking to big audiences. He's a wonderful motivator. But what I saw today was a president in a different gear. A president who was using humour. A president who was light. A president who even told a joke against himself about his own bald patch. And I think if Trump goes around the country in the run-up to these midterms and performs anything like he did today at CPAC, he will keep this momentum going, and that'll lead through to everything he needs to do.
Yeah, Nigel, you and I ran into each other this morning, and you were nice enough to agree to come on the show tonight, which is so awesome. But it was right before the president spoke. I spoke at around 9 o'clock, and what I was trying to do, and I know you said this as well, you had such a great speech, that we need to be happy warriors. I mean, we're winning on all these big issues. The left is resistant. This whole dour, conservative, hangdog kind of approach, it's tedious. Nobody wants to be on that ride.
Look, career politicians are as dull as ditch water. Why? They're always being safe. They don't want to take a risk. All they care about is getting re-elected. They're not doing this out of passion, belief in country, patriotism, caring about ordinary people. They are dull. They are humorless. They are without any real personality. And what sparkled today from the president was him being him. And I was very, very privileged, Laura, to meet you this morning, but I was also very privileged to meet the president just after he came off stage, and I saw a man there, absolutely at the top of his game. I get the feeling that this president is now really enjoying what he's doing. You're seeing his real personality coming out, and I have to say, my view, and I've watched this, and I've followed this, and I've been part of this, even though I'm a foreigner, but my view is with Trump, the best is yet to come.
Yeah, I mean, he referred to the next 7 years, clearly putting to rest these ideas he's not going to run for re-election. I want to play for you the media's reaction to the president's hour-plus long speech. Let's watch.
This morning at CPAC, he covered at least 31 different topics in an hour and 15-minute speech, but it took almost 40 minutes before the president began his conversation on the Parkland school shooting.
President Trump made time in his CPAC speech today to address his bald spot, yet nothing on Russian election meddling.
Both at CPAC and at his news conference, he conveniently avoided talk of his new tougher position on guns.
Nigel, I mean, the president was self-deprecating, which the media had complained he never was. I howled. We were watching it in our hotel room. We were all screaming. My producers, we were just screaming. It was so funny, and it lightened the mood. But they literally can never say anything positive. Doesn't matter what he does. Even if he pushes some gun control measures, they say it's not enough. It's unbelievable.
No, of course they don't. And you remember with Ronald Reagan, it was exactly the same. They never ever forgave Reagan for winning once and then twice, and they kept at him all the way through his presidency. But you know what? He goes down in history as one of the great presidents. And I don't think it matters anymore what CNN say or the New York Times write. It doesn't matter. The world has changed. People out there, ordinary folk, decent, ordinary people who live their lives, do their jobs, pay their taxes, obey the laws, bring up their families. They don't care anymore what mainstream media is telling them.
Yeah.
Do you know what? They make up their own minds.
I think you're right. The progress has left them behind, and it's almost not worth engaging with them or getting demoralized or distracted by what they're saying or the constant resistance. Move the ball down the field, get great legislation passed, do the stuff that he's already done, and then some. I want to show a poll on screen. U.S. satisfaction with world standing hits 13-year high. 45% positive rating. 2017, it was 32%. 2005, it was 48%. That's the Gallup poll. So, Nigel, my question to you is, how are we being viewed, do you sense, internationally? Americans are happy with how they think we're being viewed by the rest of the world under Trump. At least it's gone up. It's still not a majority. But that's good news, considering where they predicted he was going to take us.
Well, let's be fair. Obama was a disaster. America's standing in the world went down considerably during the 8-year period. And everyone said that Trump on the world stage would be an embarrassment. He'd be a dummy. He wouldn't know how to behave. And you know what? Right from that Riyadh speech, his first speech, through to Davos, where he delivered the line, America first, but America not alone, did it beautifully, and people understood it. all the way through, he has behaved on the international stage with huge dignity, with great confidence. In fact, when he was in Beijing walking around, I thought he was about to put a bid in to buy the place.
That would be nice. Yeah, we need that to happen. We don't even have time to get into the China thing, but he's actually the first president to address the China threat in a substantive way on trade, and not afraid to say so, Nigel, which is fantastic. Nigel, thank you so much for joining us. We got to roll, but have a great time. It was great to see you today, and fantastic speech.
Seems to be building that the world collectively wants to see a centrist candidate win this thing, and not Le Pen, and that everyone stays hunky-dory within the Union, Britain notwithstanding. That's what they want. What do you make of that?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what the markets have done today is to back stability, continuity and the status quo. When you think about it, though, it's irrational. I mean, what has the Eurozone done for growth? What has it done for unemployment? What has it done for global trade? Actually, the European Union itself, its single market and its currency have been bad for business and bad for investors, but there is this scare story, and you've said it already. They were scared of Brexit, they were scared of Trump, and it was irrational. And if Marine Le Pen wins, yeah, the markets will fall for a few days, but no more than that.
All right, some are saying that populism might be waning a little bit, that maybe even just given the closeness of this election in France, maybe owing to the fact that, Britain's experienced a few bumps along to this official break, or Donald Trump's declining popularity or tough go of it in the polls, depending on how you look at those polls, of course, that maybe that's what's, making it look long in the tooth. What do you think?
No, I don't agree at all. I think what you saw in 2016 was a genuine democratic revolution against the big corporate culture, against the lack of democracy, against the lack of feeling that nation states increasingly were having. Look, the very fact that the socialists who are in power in France today got 6% in the election yesterday. The fact that the official Conservative opposition didn't even make the final runoff shows you that far from it disappearing, it's still there. Now, Marine Le Pen is not the favourite over the course of the next couple of weeks. But you know something? We could be here in a couple of weeks' time after what may well be a very close contest indeed. And populism, opposition to big supranational projects is still growing.
Finally, your thoughts on the market reaction. Do they interpret that, the union being intact is better than the union not? Now, that, as to your point, could change. But what do you make of that collective market read?
Well, I'm afraid that too many of the opinions that the market listens to comes from the big banks who are hand in glove with the politicians, and they like life just as it is. And when the European Union breaks up, there may be some short-term turmoil, but ultimately people want to live in nation states, they want to vote for people that set their taxes, they want to control their borders, and ultimately that is where we're going.
All right. Thank you, my friend. Always good catching up with you. Nigel Farage.